going on, everyone? So, the Dallas Mavericks, right? They are in an interesting position because Kyrie Irving, who knows how long he's going to be out, and they could probably use somebody that can score the basketball, make some plays, kind of help run the offense, right? And Austin Reaves is a guy that could make some sense for the Dallas Mavericks, right? Dallas wanted Austin Reaves in the trade for Luka, but the Lakers, rejected that. In all honesty, they probably should have sent Austin Reaves and kept Max Christie, and maybe they could have kept like a pick or something like that. I don't know. Like, who knows what would that have looked like had they sent out Austin Reaves? Like, how high does Dallas value Austin Reaves? And you could say, like, there's no way you would have kept the pick or anything like that. But we kind of fleeced Dallas for what Luka would have gotten on the open market. So to think that, like, if we would have given up Austin Reaves and been able to keep Max Christie, we wouldn't have been able to keep the pick, or maybe it's a pick swap instead of a pick, or two swaps instead of a pick, but now you have two tradable firsts. But also, Dallas, Nico Harris, and Rob Pelinka have, a relationship together, right? They obviously made the Luka trade. And, some people might look at it as like the blowback, like, oh, if they make another trade. I don't think Nico Harris cares, right? Like, the dude just kept like digging a grave, and everyone's like, dude, stop dying. He didn't care, right? He just fired his entire training staff and medical staff and all that stuff, right? Like, they are really trying to clean house, right? And regardless, Kyrie Irving is going to miss some time. So for Dallas, it makes sense to go get a guy like an Austin Reaves that can come in, slot in, right? Kind of play the Kyrie role until Kyrie gets back. And then once they get to that position, then they can kind of figure it out, whether Reaves is coming off the bench or you're slotting them alongside. I mean, he did play Luka and Kyrie, so maybe you can do something similar, especially with Anthony Davis and like a Derek Lively, and then, a Nazi Marshall, right? They can make it work. They can figure it out. And worst case, they can always just look to move Austin Reaves at the trade deadline or something like that. For the Lakers, right? Dallas has several needs that would make a ton of sense for the Lakers. One, Max Christie. Two, Daniel Gafford, right? So if you could work something out where you're getting Daniel Gafford, so you get that center that you need slotted in alongside LeBron James and Luka Doncic, and then also go get a guy in Max Christie who could be your starting two for the next, 10 years or whatever. Like, he's still so young and he's already showing that progress. He was great in that role for the Dallas Mavericks. What does he look like in a starting role where he's kind of like now in the KCP, Danny Green type role for the Lakers? I think that makes a ton of sense. Then go get a legit 3-and-D wing, right? Because you'd still have Rui, Gabe Vincent. You'd still have basically everything you needed as far as like picks and asset-wise and tradable expiring contracts. Well, now you don't need to go get a center, right? Yeah, you'd have to add some salary filler and stuff like that for Max Christie, because you're talking Max Christie making $18 million, and you're talking, Daniel Gafford's making like 13, 14 million. So let's call it 22, 23 million to be safe. So you'd have to do something where, you go get, Daniel Gafford, Max Christie, and probably maybe another piece. Can you get a Marshall, like a Nazi Marshall, especially if you're giving up Reaves? Do like, whatever, Gabe Vincent, or if they want Kleba back because you're trading a center. So it's like, hey, if you want another big man that can spread the floor alongside Anthony Davis. Point is that there's a path that can be worked out there. And the Lakers would get who they should have kept to begin with. You can make the argument for the Austin Reaves trade, right? Because it's like, you should have traded him to Dallas for Luka in the first place, but now you're getting a legit 3-and-D guard that was everything that the Lakers needed during that Minnesota series, and then you're getting your center, right? So if you would have told me at the Luka trade, obviously, it would have been nice to do this, but if you told me at the Luka trade, you also gave up Austin Reaves, but you were able to retain Max Christie and got Daniel Gafford in the deal. Daniel Gafford and Luka for Anthony Davis, Austin Reaves, and a first. Like, perfect. I would have been like jumping for joy. Like, we just got our center. We just got, we got to keep our two-way young guy. And then on top of that, and not just that, but Dallas's window. Remember, they talked about the window is the next few years, right? 3 years or whatever. Well, Anthony Davis and Austin Reaves have chemistry together. They've played together, right? So there's that argument in that regard, right? And again, like, the problem with Austin Reaves is that he's an expiring contract that is not going to sign an extension because it doesn't make sense for him financially. If he not opts out, but if he doesn't sign the extension and becomes a free agent, then he can get as much as $40 million a year, right? So do the Lakers really want that to be their problem, where they have to either overpay for Austin Reaves or they end up losing him for nothing when you could have gotten Max Christie and Daniel Gafford, right? And then two, it's like, the Lakers have so many needs, and can Luka and Austin Reaves work and coexist in the backcourt? Max Christie and Luka can, because Max Christie doesn't need the ball in his hands. He's great as a 3-and-D guy. He can create a little bit for himself. He's shown that he can create a little bit for others, but more than anything, he can defend multiple positions. He can defend 1 through 3 for you. So now you have that versatile, athletic, youthful defensive piece that can just do the dirty work, make the hustle plays, rebound, hit shots. I mean, he's averaging like 15 a game for Dallas. Right? If he could do that for the Lakers, that would be huge. Right, especially slotted alongside LeBron, slotted alongside Luka. Right? If you could work something like that out, I just think that'd be great. And Austin Reaves being 13 and some change next season, right? It makes it so hard to trade him for like higher end value, right? Like, yes, you could maybe go get like a Herb Jones or something like that. Their contracts are pretty similar, but the problem is like Lakers can't take on more salary, and then on top of that, it's like, you know, you even if you were to go trade him for a top tier guy, you're trading multiple players, right? Not even like, just like say Cam Johnson, right? Nothing crazy. Like Cam, even if like just like a Cam Johnson guy, you know, 3-and-D, sizable wing, coming off of 18, almost 19 points per game, right? Let's say the Lakers wanted to trade Austin Reaves for Cam Johnson. You'd have to trade Austin Reaves and like a Gabe Vincent or something like that. And it's not so much like that's a big deal, right? But it's the fact that you have to trade multiple players, rather than if Austin Reaves was making like 30 million, then it's like, well, now you could trade him, go get Daniel Gafford, Max Christie, and another piece, right? For Austin Reaves. It just, you could expand more. But Dallas is a destination that's in a weird place, right? Because, again, there's a lot of questions about Kyrie Irving. On top of Dallas being in a weird place with Kyrie Irving, right? They are going to need, like, that was a problem for them, right? Guy that could be the engine of the offense. They didn't have that. That guy that could be that scoring option, you know, when Kyrie's out. They didn't really have that, right? They were so reliant on Anthony Davis to basically give you a 40-piece every night. Well, you have a guy in Austin Reaves who's averaging, I think it's 28. I think he's averaging 28, 6, and 8 when LeBron James doesn't play, right? So you have that. Like, dude, the guy's putting up all-star numbers, right, without LeBron. You need a guy like that until Kyrie gets back. Also, you know, you could see what it looks like with him and Kyrie and work it out, or make a trade, or you could trade Kyrie, or you could trade, you know, Austin Reaves. There we go. Knew I'd get it, right? So that's the thing, right? Dallas has a clear need right now, and Austin Reaves fills that need. The Lakers have clear needs right now, and Daniel Gafford and Max Christie solve those needs. Plus, if you, like I said, if you can work it out and get other pieces and other players, the thing is too, is you're probably not giving up assets if you're trading Austin Reaves, because like, what is Austin Reaves' value? Probably 2 firsts, if not more. I think there's some teams out there that would pay to have him, right? Like, you know, yes, I know he had a bad playoff run, and look, I've been very critical of Austin Reaves, but there's teams out there that will look at Austin Reaves and would love to have, that are like, dude, that are going to look at that 28, 6, and 8 and be like, dude, like, that's everything we need, right? And Dallas might be one of those teams. Dallas might be one of those places where it's like, hey, dude, you know, like, you know, it'd be great to kind of replace, you know, Kyrie momentarily, and then kind of give you some offensive production that isn't reliant on Kyrie, and, you know, give you some playmaking and a little bit of everything. Austin Reaves. You have all the defensive pieces. You have the interior presence to kind of mask Austin Reaves. And if you wanted to go Austin Reaves and Kyrie, you have the perimeter wings, and you have the 2 interior defensive pieces in Derek Lively and Anthony Davis to kind of offset that, right? So if anything, you can make the argument they're one of the few teams that can kind of offset a Kyrie, Austin Reaves kind of backcourt if they wanted to do that, if they wanted to go that route. Plus, they can make little other tools, little other adjustments. But to me, it's like, and I know some people will probably look at it and go, yeah, but then you're trading back for Max Christie. But it's like, yeah, but you got, like, again, if you kind of reset it, right, and look at it as like 2 separate trades, which, you know, if they traded Austin Reaves to Dallas regardless, right, you would have gotten something else in return. You could justify it as like, well, Austin Reaves should have went in the trade. You're just kind of resetting the Max Christie for Austin Reaves scenario, but you're also getting a center in Daniel Gafford, who you really need, who is still young, who has familiarity alongside Luka Doncic, who, you know, does multiple things out there that the Lakers desperately need, and he's cheap, so you can still go make other moves. Like, You solve two of your major problems that you wouldn't have to solve in free agency and via other trades, and you'd still have all of your tradable assets to then go and solve those needs, right? So Austin Reaves would solve immediately two of your biggest needs, which is a guy that can slot in alongside Luka and defend and be your point of attack, also hit the open three. Then, what else? What's the biggest need the Lakers have right now? A center, a starting caliber center. Daniel Gafford gives you that starting caliber center. So now, literally, bare minimum, you have Luka, Max Christie, Daniel Gafford, and LeBron James. Absolute worst case scenario, you could go with a Dorian Finney-Smith at the three if you had to, right? I want to keep Dorian Finney-Smith, but I'd also like to look to go get, can you go get, could you maybe go get a Herb Jones now if you have your picks and stuff like that? That would be amazing. Imagine starting five of Luka, Christie, Herb Jones, LeBron James, and Daniel Gafford. Whew, my God. But point is now you have just more flexibility to do things and get things done, right? I know some people would hate to lose Austin Reaves. Look, I like Austin Reaves. I just don't think he's the superstar that people make him out to be. But I do think if you're going to trade Austin Reaves, it either needs to be for a tier guy or it needs to solve your issues. Dallas would solve your issues, right? So, boom, there you go. Now you got a better natural fit. You solved two of your biggest needs in your starting five. Now just go sign a backup center, and you could be at that point like a Jericho Sims or something like that. Bring in a Jericho Sims, retain Jackson Hayes. Now you got your center rotation in depth. Boom. And then now go trade for a 3-and-D wing, and can you sign one in free agency, right? Your roster's set. Now you're probably one of the best teams in basketball, if not the best team in basketball. That's what I'd like to see the Lakers do. But as always, this is a discussion. Pass a question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Agree with me? Disagree with me? Kind of mixed in the middle. How do you feel? Whatever your thoughts are. Either way, I'd love to hear it. So let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. So we enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one.